Hello, in this video we are going to work on question 3 of Lab 303. In this question, we are supposed to calculate the size of Blue Ridge University data warehouse based on the details that are given here. So Blue Ridge University was a database that we also created in one of the previous labs. So I have the diagram of that from our lab previously. Let's look at this one. So it has 4-dimension tables, and then we have one fact table. So the data that's given to us is data warehouse will contain data for 30 periods, which is a total of 10 years. If we go to our diagram, each period is of one semester. So we are looking at 30 periods here. So the question that is asked of us is estimate the number of rows in the fact table using the assumptions stated previously. So we are just talking about the fact table, not each and every table right now. To calculate the fact table storage, you may have to go through all the fields here or the data points here that are relevant for the fact table. So let's look at that. It says each course section has about 40 students, and typically each student is taking 5 courses, and there are 200 professors at any time. In a semester, the college offers an average of 500 course sections. So for the fact table, we may not be needing all of this data. So let's focus on the fact table here and identify what's the smallest unit that identifies one single row in our fact table. So we are looking at one student ID, one section ID, one professor, one period, and one course grade. To make sense of this, think about how we are in a class. This is a course section 3060 101. In fall 22, that is our period. I'm the professor here. Each one of you is a student with a student ID. And with section you are in 3060 101, and each one of you at the end will have a course grade, and it could be a numeric grade or expressed as a letter grade. So that is an example which shows us the granularity of this table, this fact table. So if I wanted to know how many rows are there going to be in the fact table, then let's start with student ID. So typically we have about 40 students in a course section. I multiply that with sections. So it says there are about 500 course sections. Okay. And then we have how many periods are we talking about? We are talking about, so each section is the same as professor, so we don't have multiple professors. So having sections is same as how many professors there are. Let's talk about the period, how many periods we have over time. So over time for 10 years, we are going to have 30 periods. So that is how many rows would be needed over the next 10 years in the fact student grades table. So we'll start with how many students per section, how many sections we are going to have in any period or a semester, and how many periods do we have. And if you want to do the calculation for professor, each section is only going to have one professor, so you can do that. So that way, this is the total number of rows that we will have in the fact table over 10 years. And you can do the calculation. What this is, it comes out to be 600,000 if I did my math correctly. So that was that. Let's go ahead and look at the next question here. The next question, or part B, involves estimating the total size of the fact table in bytes if each field has an average of 5 bytes. To solve this question, we already know how many rows are there. We need to know how many fields are there in each row, and then multiply that by 5 bytes to get total number of bytes. So moving on, these are the total number of rows. We need to know how many fields there are in each of these rows. Let's see. We have student ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fields per row. So if we multiply this whole thing by 6, we get how many fields we have. Now, if each field is going to have 5 bytes of data, if you complete this calculation, it will tell you how many bytes will be needed for the fact table. So that completes our lab 3. Please make sure you follow the submission instructions.